people talk about the contrast between capitalism and socialism, and there is a contrast, but neither one of them really is a complete system by itself. They're two things that are only found mixed together. True free enterprise would be where you could be in any business you wanted to be in, and only have the necessary amount of regulation. And capitalism is a system in which the people that have the money make the rules, which is, rule by the rich, is also called oligarchy. But people are always saying capitalism when they really mean free enterprise, and it's gotten to where the terms really don't mean anything anymore. So if you tried to have a wholly free capitalist system, it would mean that you would have no rules at all. You would have no government. And so it would be basically jungle law. And if you installed totally unrestricted capitalism in America today, you would immediately have an upsurge in the mugging industry. Without a cop to make an arrest or a court to try somebody for an offense, the psychopath would be free to mug people and even just decide that it's convenient to murder them and take the stuff off the body rather than even letting the victim live. And there's nothing, society wouldn't be doing anything against it. So we invented government, and by doing that started to bring in some socialism. In other words, what I'm saying is you can't be against socialism. It's only a matter of how much of it you want. We don't have socialized medicine. They do have it in Britain. We spend 20 to 30% of our healthcare insurance money on overhead. So if you average that to 25 and then subtract the 5 that it costs the British, that leaves us paying 20% too much. And we've got 9% of our people that don't have health coverage at all, which means we could cover them by going single payer. We could cover all the uninsured people. Simple as that, and have money left over. Also, healthcare providers are losing money because you go in the hospital and you have a heart attack. Well, they treat you and then they hand you a $250,000 bill and you say, well, I can't pay this, and they say, yeah, we know, and they write it off. And then they try to make it back on the people that had insurance, and they have to, because they have to make a profit or they can't stay in business. So guess what? You're already paying the bill anyway. There's other things that are socialized. We all pay for the police. We hope we won't need to call them. But if we do, then we do. And so some people have more crimes committed against them, and in a capitalist system there'd be a question whether they could afford the police coverage. And they couldn't, because it's the poor that are the victims of most crimes. We have socialized fire departments. We have socialized interstate freeways. We have socialized national forests. If we privatized them, Big Fat Co. would preserve a couple acres of land that they didn't have any other use for. They'd call that the park and charge admission to it. But John Muir and Teddy Roosevelt and some other people like that figured out a long time ago that we didn't want that, and they preserved things like Yosemite for all of us to have forever. But it's socialized. Now, if you're going to have somebody make the rules, you could choose to allow money to be considered to be speech. Buckley versus Vallejo, U.S. Supreme Court case, that basically stops campaign finance reform, which therefore permits the corporations to buy the legislatures, and hence the laws are written by the lobbyists. If you don't want that, then you need democracy, and in order to have democracy, you have to have it so that that people's perception of what's going on in their world isn't controlled by the corporate media, and that their choices of candidates aren't controlled by the corporations, and da 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 da. No, real democracy, and that, of course, is a little bit socialistic because it limits the rights of the corporations, those poor corporations. I feel sad. Limit their rights. No. Okay. I didn't think you did, really. When government tries to regulate everything, it often gets too big, and it gets inefficient and has red tape. That's why you want as little government as you need to get the job done, because it's kind of inherently inefficient. Although, so are the corporations. They've got their own red tape, and anybody that's ever worked for a corporation knows all about, like the things that are completely ridiculous but can't be changed, and all that sort of stuff. And there's another difference too, and that is that the corporations aren't trying to do things to benefit society. You may have a politician who's democratically elected and really is trying to help you. In fact, if we had a real democracy, we'd probably have quite a few people like that. But they're going to run into a lot of problems. And it's going to be easier not to saddle them with the stuff that doesn't really need to be government controlled, and that's where we come back to the capitalism. We gave away to the robber barons alternating square miles of land all the way across the United States so that they could build the railroads. They needed all that land given to them to encourage them to do something that would cause them to become the richest people in history. We shouldn't have let them build it. We should have built those tracks at public expense, because of course they used our money anyway. They always managed to use public money. So we should have built them ourselves, and then we could have said, okay, we'll run government trains on these tracks, and we'll also have private trains on the tracks, but they have to pay us. And so when we totted up our taxes and all, we could say, okay, yeah, well, we got so much for this and so much for that, and we got X amount for the use of our railroad tracks. It's proving to be a very good investment in public hands, where the profit goes to us, not to them. Welfare, obviously, there's a few. There are a few genuinely altruistic people that really do donate large sums of money to good causes. But there's not enough, and we really can't. We can't all just run out of the way and say, well, you're the only one that can do it because we won't, and therefore the burden falls entirely on you. Just, be glad that those people did something for others that they didn't have to do, and be aware that we're all responsible for helping this civilization along. It's our civilization. The people on welfare, yes, some of them could work. So let's have them work. Why is it that I go to the DMV and I can't get anybody to do a driving test? There's 3,300 people in this town. They have one person part-time at the DMV office, and when they go out to do a driving test, they have to chase everyone out into the hall and lock the door behind them. I could do driving tests. I have a CDL. Why don't they say, well, on the days when the regular employee is not there, we got this part-time guy, used to be a truck driver, and so he doesn't like to get up early, so you can make an appointment to see him anytime between noon and sundown on a Thursday or Friday afternoon or whatever it is. And then they would pay me for riding along with these people and say, "Look out!" I don't know if I could take it, but we need somebody to do it. It's something that they don't do very well. So we could contract that out. And a lot of other things that are inefficient could be contracted out. And I favor giving people the option. Like say, I've got to hook up to the computer. You can come to me and renew your driver's license, or you can go to the DMV. Because I really want your business, I treat you nice. Because like the way it is now, there's no competition. If I had to compete, and I would say, I'd come into my office every morning thinking I have to do a better job than the DMV. That's why people come to me. And I only get to keep a third of the money, so I have to be efficient. But yeah, I can do your driver's license. Here, there's your picture. Okay, let me look at it on the computer. Looks pretty good. Okay, we'll print that thing right there, and then there you are. And thank you very much for your business. And here's my card. Make sure when you come to renew that you come back to me because I need the money. No reason that people couldn't be in business doing things like that. That's free enterprise. It's the conservatives that seem to not want to let businesses like that exist because they never do anything to facilitate them. But the conservatives are really fake conservatives. Real conservatism is the unwillingness to make major changes without thinking them through and moving carefully on the theory that you can mess things up a lot easier than you can fix them up. So, down goes the Affordable Care Act, and now they're going to start all over again. They had to do that because the other kids built that sandcastle, and they have to kick it down. We have to build our own. Or it's fine if we don't build a sandcastle at all, as long as your sandcastle's gone. Jeez. So, got to have some socialism in there. You got to mix these things together a little bit. And there are some things that we're better off with capitalism on. The thing is, we got to stop this business of saying socialism is a bad thing all the time. We have to stop this business of letting the corporations run our country. Oh yeah, I like free enterprise, but I'll have some socialism on the side.